Hello and welcome on the Hanamichi. You are with me, Suleiman, and this week I'm exploring the word essence. On Monday, I said that each day I would only give myself a specific time parameter. So technically, I'm only meant to be speaking about whatever I'm talking about for 3 minutes. But I really want to share with you a very, very cool story which relates to my first day in Japan. And the word essence is so directly connected to it. And I just feel like if I'm going to tell you this story, I can't submit to the 3-minute rule. So I hope you don't mind me breaking it. I feel like I want to give you the details. And yeah, I think the word essence is like a perfume. It's in no rush. It's in no hurry. It kind of lingers and that's my excuse or my reasoning for breaking the rule. But I am talking about essence, and it's a great story. So I have with me, because it's a drinking related story as well, a bottle of Japanese whiskey, aged 8 years, which I shall serve to myself. Kanpai. Just what the doctor ordered. Okay. So this is a story of how the Kabuki cocktail was invented and came into being. And I'm imagining that as you watch this, might not be the case, but it's evening time, and this may be the last thing you watch before you go to bed. That's what's in my head. In any case, I want to take you back to July 2018. This was the month that I made my first trip to Japan. I went with the sole purpose of seeing Kabuki. I had for months and months been intensively researching Kabuki. I was writing about Kabuki and exploring ideas of how I could stage my own Kabuki-inspired performance. But I'd never been to Japan, and so I'd seen a lot and read a lot about Kabuki, but I felt it was necessary to go to Japan and see it with my own 2 eyes and my own 2 ears. So in July 2018, I set off, and I went to Tokyo, and I also went to Kyoto. I spent 2 weeks in total there. And on my first night in Japan, I ended up at one of the best cocktail bars in the world. It wasn't all planned. I arrived in Japan. It was the first time I'd left Europe. And I went back to my apartment, unpacked my bags, had something to eat, and then I felt good. I felt like I had energy. I was so excited to be in Japan. And I decided to go for a little exploration. So I went into town and was roaming around. And I had in the back of my mind a recommendation that had been given to me from my mother, that there was this cocktail bar that I should go to when I was in Tokyo, called Bar High Five. So I thought, why not? This is my first night in Japan. I'm here by myself. It could be a nice way just to ease into my trip. So I decided to go to Bar High Five, which is in Ginza, which happens to be right around the corner from the Kabuki Theatre. So I thought it was also a nice way to familiarize myself with the area that the Kabuki Theatre was in. And so I went in search of the cocktail bar called Bar High Five. What happens next? So, in Japan, if you've never been, places can be quite difficult to find. You can be very, very near the vicinity of where you want to go. But if you're trying to find somewhere, there's a good chance that this particular place can be either 5 floors down underneath ground floor level or like 18 floors up. So I'd arrived at the address of Bar High Five, but I was still not there according but I managed to find it and went down an elevator and arrived at Bar High Five. I could see the sign. And then there was a small stand saying, please wait to be seated. And I obeyed, of course. I waited by where I was meant to. And then a young man came out and said, I'm very sorry, but we are busy tonight and we don't have space available for you. And I didn't take this at all in a bad way. You know, it was just a kind of spontaneous decision to go, and I was just by myself. It wasn't planned. So, you know, I didn't have any high expectations at Bar High Five. I just, you know, wanted to check it out. So at that point, when I was just about to turn around and make my way home or somewhere else, the owner of Bar High Five, Mr. Ueno-san, beckoned the boy to the bar. And so I stood there for a few moments, not quite sure what's going on. Everything felt a bit like lost in translation. And the boy came back towards me and he said, oh, excuse me, we do have space up at the bar, but there's only one thing. I said, what? He said, there's a man smoking cigars and you'll be in the corner next to him. Is that okay? So I said, yeah, of course. And in my head, I was thinking, that's even better. That even sounds cooler. So I sashayed into the bar, took my seat up beside this Chinese Cuban cigar smoking man, and took out my cigarette case, took out my cigarettes, and perched on the bar, looking at this most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful array of liqueurs and spirits from all around the world, and all these Japanese whiskies and gins. And I felt at home at that moment. I was like, I have arrived in Japan. So there I was in Bar High Five, and I really enjoyed being up at the bar. It was really cool because I'm someone that loves to observe and just sort of watch quietly. So I was able just to watch the kind of goings on as the bartenders were serving. And I also became increasingly aware of the maestro, Ueno-san, the head bartender and the owner of Bar High Five, who is infamous around the world for his cocktail making skills and is a specialist in ice for cocktails. And the way he was just orchestrating the bar was something to behold. It really, really was quite special to see how he was just seemingly effortlessly and quietly, like a puppeteer, just kind of, you know, saying, oh no, that glass is not right for this cocktail, and just seemed to have his eyes on all corners of the room. Because how on earth did he see me, this quiet little unassuming boy, coming in and then about to be turned away? So, anyway, it's me at the bar. The Cuban smoking man is doing his thing by myself, having my cigarettes, and it's time for me to order a cocktail. There are no menus in this bar. I had no idea what the price of the cocktails were, and I was on quite a slim budget in Japan. So it really did feel like, you know, let's just go for it and hope that all will work out. And so I thought, okay, well, there's no menu. What cocktail do I go for? And trying to be the young, sophisticated, independent man that I aspired to be, I thought a martini would be a good option to go for. So I asked for a martini, And it was made by this young bartender. And he asked me which I would like, a vodka or gin martini. I said, oh gosh, didn't even think about that. I'll go for gin. So I had a gin martini. Can't remember if it was shaken or stirred. And it was made by one of the young prodigies, okay? So, and it was an excellent cocktail, and I really, really liked it. So I sat there with my cigarettes, sort of quietly soaking in the atmosphere of Japan, this bar. And then I thought, okay, once I'd finished the cocktail, I was like, all right, I need to get one more. One more. I mean, I don't know what these cocktails are costing, but I'll get one more. But if I am going to get this one more cocktail, I really, really am curious to get it made by this maestro, Ueno-san, the owner and the head bartender of Bar High Five. So I quietly sit there and waiting for the right moment to say something to Ueno-san. And I did. When the time was right and he was not too far away, I introduced myself to him, told him that this was my first night in Japan and that I was here to see Kabuki. And he was very warm, very polite and friendly. And he asked me what I would like to drink. Emboldened by my first cocktail, the martini, I somehow struck up the courage and the naive, cocky confidence to make a special request. I said to Ueno-san, would you be able to make me a cocktail that contains the essence of Kabuki? And he just gave a wry smile and said, I'll have to think about that. So he quietly wandered off and continued to man like marionettes his team and control the environment. And in a few short moments, he returned to where I was sat, still up at the bar, and placed 3 bottles right in front of me. One bottle had a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful labeling, and even had on the face of the bottle a picture of Kabuki kind of mask, the Kumadori makeup, these striking red and white colours. And so I watched him begin to compose the world's first Kabuki cocktail in front of my eyes. This had never before been made, definitely never before requested. And here I was, first night in Japan, sitting at one of the world's most esteemed cocktail bars, having the head of this cocktail bar making me a Kabuki cocktail. Now, what is in this Kabuki cocktail, you might ask? Well, I'm afraid it's a secret that must remain in the Kabuki family. But I'll tell you that it's a gin-based cocktail, but it also had sake in it, and it had a special yuzu liqueur. So, he made this cocktail. I enjoyed it, I devoured it, and asked at the end if he would kindly write the recipe down on a piece of paper, which he did, and which I still have. The cocktail has been made at one of my Kabuki-inspired performance events in the past. In fact, my first ever one in 2019 on my birthday. And the Kabuki cocktail may come back again in a future performance event. But I just thought I would share you the story of the Kabuki cocktail and how I plucked up the courage to ask such a question to this revered man as make me a cocktail that contains the essence of Kabuki. What is the essence of Kabuki? You have to drink the cocktail to find out. Good night.